While filling up my car late at night, I kept seeing the same mysterious man watching me from different gas stations across town, always wearing the same clothes, never buying anything. It was Tuesday night around 11:30 p.m. when I first saw him. I'd been out late and my car was running on empty. The closest gas station was this rundown shell on the outskirts of Greenville. As I stepped out of my Tesla, something made me glance toward the convenience store. That's when I saw him. A man standing perfectly still near the ice machine. Average height, maybe mid-40s, wearing a dark blue mechanic's jumpsuit and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He was facing directly toward me, not moving, just watching. I tried to get a better look at his face, but the shadow from his cap made it impossible. Still, something about his posture felt familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. As the numbers climbed on the gas pump display, I kept stealing glances toward the ice machine. He hadn't moved an inch. Most people fidget when they're standing around. This guy was like a statue. The pump clicked off at $47.83. I scanned the entire area, but there was no sign of him anywhere. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been fundamentally wrong about that encounter. It wasn't just his stillness. It was something deeper that seemed to bypass my rational mind. Raankringtum suppose tribe I rakulat deport machine. 15 fund three. The fund the tor fiternazar lacta. Signed the etrezel fund la poetlu samdoro my treads prop. This one from Lost. I started filling up my tank, scrolling through my phone. That's when I felt it. The unmistakable sensation of being watched. I looked up and nearly dropped my phone. There he was. Same man, same dark blue jumpsuit, same baseball cap. This time he was standing near the air pump, but his position was identical. Perfectly still, facing directly toward me. My heart started pounding. This couldn't be a coincidence. I studied him more carefully. The jumpsuit looked old, faded, with a name patch over the chest that said Earl in red letters. His boots were scuffed work boots. Everything suggested he was some kind of mechanic. I decided to approach him. I walked across the parking lot, keeping my movements casual. Hey, I called out when I was about 20 feet away. You okay, man? No response. He didn't even turn his head. I got closer, maybe 10 feet away now. Excuse me, are you all right? Still nothing. From this distance, I could see more details. His hands were pale and looked almost waxy under the fluorescent lights, but his face was still hidden in shadow. Earl? I tried using his name. Is there something you need help with? The silence stretched on forever. Then, just as I was about to give up, he moved. His head tilted up slightly, just enough for me to catch a glimpse of what was underneath that baseball cap. His eyes were completely black, not dark brown, solid black, like someone had filled the sockets with ink, and he was smiling. A wide, unnatural smile showing teeth that seemed too white and too sharp. I turned and walked back to my car as quickly as I could without running. When I looked back toward the air pump, he was gone again, but this time I knew he'd be back.
By Saturday, my anxiety had reached a breaking point. I needed answers, so I decided to research everything I could find about Earl. The first hit came from a newspaper archive dating back to 1987. Local mechanic dies in gas station fire. The article was about a man named Earl Hutchins, who had died when a service garage next to a Shell station caught fire. The accompanying photo made my blood freeze. It was him. Same face, same jumpsuit. But Earl Hutchins had died 36 years ago. The gas station where Earl had died was the same Shell station where I'd first encountered him. Digging deeper, I found that a customer had also died in that fire. Dolores Whitman, a 63-year-old woman who worked at a local diner and always wore a white uniform. I kept searching and found a disturbing pattern. Over the past 3 decades, there had been multiple reports of people being followed by mysterious figures at gas stations. Most were dismissed as hallucinations, but the descriptions were remarkably consistent. And in every case, the people making these reports had eventually gone missing. The most recent case was from 2019. A truck driver named Marcus Webb had filed police reports about being followed by dead-looking people at gas stations. Security footage showed Marcus talking to empty air, backing away from nothing. Marcus had disappeared 3 months later. His truck was found abandoned. No sign of struggle. I found Marcus's police file included blurry photos that, when enhanced, showed faint figures, Earl in his jumpsuit, and others, a collection of the dead, gathering at gas stations. In the oldest file, from 1962, I found the answer. A traveling salesman had actually spoken to one of these entities. According to the transcript, the entity had said they were collectors who gathered at gas stations to trap souls, adding them to their ranks. They targeted people who were alone frequently, people whose disappearance might not be immediately noticed, people like me. The pattern was always the same: one figure, then more, until their target was surrounded and claimed. I was in stage 2, and my time was running out. 6 days later, my luck ran out. I was driving back from Durham and my Tesla's battery was nearly dead. The only charging station within range was at a 24-hour truck stop. When I pulled in and plugged in my car, I saw them. Not just Earl this time. There were 8 figures standing in a circle around the charging stations. Earl, a woman in a white diner uniform who had to be Dolores, and others. A man in military uniform. A woman in a 1960s dress, a construction worker. All of them with the same black eyes. All of them with impossible smiles. They began moving toward my car, closing their circle tighter. When Earl reached my Tesla and placed his hands on the hood, I heard a sizzling sound. The paint began to bubble and peel where he touched it. The other figures reached the car, each placing their hands somewhere on the vehicle. They were corrupting it, turning it into something that wouldn't protect me. I grabbed the container of salt I'd bought for protection and poured a line across my dashboard. The moment the salt hit the air, all 8 figures stepped back as if burned. But Earl looked directly at me and spoke, his voice like grinding metal. "Salt won't save you forever, Jimmy. We've been patient, but our patience has limits." "What do you want?" I shouted back. "What we were denied in life, the chance to continue existing. You have enough life energy to sustain us all for decades." They began moving toward the car again. I realized the salt was only a temporary measure. Looking at their reflections in my windows, I noticed something crucial. While they appeared solid, their reflections showed them as transparent and flickering. They weren't completely anchored to reality. I turned my radio to full static, rolled down the windows, and turned on my high beams pointed at them. The electromagnetic interference and bright light made them flicker like bad TV reception. But they kept advancing. That's when I remembered the iron nail in my pocket. I rolled down my window just enough to stick the nail out. The moment the iron entered their space, all 8 figures screamed in unison. Not with voices, but with their entire beings. Earl lunged at me, reaching for the nail. The moment his fingers touched the iron, there was a blinding flash of light. When my vision cleared, Earl was gone. Completely destroyed. The other figures were backing away, but they weren't retreating. They were regrouping. I realized I needed to affect all of them at once. I was sitting next to a massive electrical charging system. If I could channel that energy through the iron nail, I pressed the nail against the charging port and yanked the cable partially out, creating a spark gap. A wave of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from the charging station. When it hit the remaining 7 figures, they shattered like glass sculptures, exploding into fragments that dissolved before hitting the ground. In seconds, they were all gone. I sat in my car shaking from adrenaline. The charging station was fried, but my car had enough power to make it home. As I drove through the empty streets, I couldn't help wondering if there were others out there. But Earl, Dolores, and their collection were gone, destroyed by iron and electricity and desperate thinking. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly safe. The gas station encounters were over, but I'll never look at a late-night fuel stop the same way again.